There's something I've been thinking a lot about lately, how a single year can feel like an absolute lifetime, how you can move through 12 months and feel as if you've walked through 10 different versions of yourself, how endings and beginnings can sit side by side like they were always meant to be next to each other. This year has been exactly that, a year of shedding, a year of unraveling. It felt too big to open. It's not been tidy and it's not been predictable, but maybe that's the point. Maybe years like this only feel brutal because they are trying to shape us in ways we would never voluntarily choose. In this video, I want to explore the truth behind the year that we've all just lived through. Welcome to the Lead Well channel, where we talk honestly about the inner world of leadership, well-being, and parts of life that people never really speak about. It made me reflect on something I read about 2025 being a 9-year in numerology. A year of endings, of completion, of clearing space. A year where the things that no longer serves us drift away or get ripped away depending on how tightly we hold on. I don't follow numerology religiously, but sometimes meaning finds us even when we're not looking for it. And when I read the description of a 9-year, it felt like someone had looked at the year that I was living and summarized it in one sentence. Endings everywhere, letting go everywhere, loss, transition, shifting, dissolving. It just made too much sense. And then I read that 2026 is a 1-year, which represents new beginnings, fresh cycles, new roads, a clean start after the storm. It's also the year of the horse in the Chinese zodiac, which is known for momentum and forward motion and stepping into the next phase with confidence. The contrast between the 2 years made me stop. A year of shedding followed by a year of building. A year of letting go followed by a year of choosing. A year of endings followed by a year of beginnings. It's almost poetic. The kind of symmetry that makes you think that life really does move in cycles, and maybe what we call chaos is actually just preparation. And looking back at my own year, it fits too well, almost uncomfortably well. Nearly losing my dad at the start of the year, my mum being sicker than she's ever been, the financial impact of a house move that hit harder than expected, the slow realization that a business I love needed a new direction, the decision to leave the building that had defined the brand for 10 years, moving the entire operation to a new venue in just 3 weeks, the stress of renovating a house while navigating everything else, even my car being written off for good measure. One thing after another. On paper it looks absurd, in reality it felt relentless. There were days I wondered if it would ever stop, days where I felt like I was holding myself together with whatever tape I had left. Days when a single email or bill or unexpected problem tipped everything over the edge. Days where I questioned whether I was failing or whether life was just asking too much at once. And if you're listening to this and nodding because you've had a similar year, then you know exactly what I mean. Some years are like that. They strip you back. They take pieces of your comfort away. They make you face things that you never wanted to face. They pull you into directions that you avoided for far too long. They remove the parts of your life that look stable but were quietly holding you back. And they force you to confront the truth rather than the story that you wish was true. And the more I sat with that, the more I realized that maybe years like this are not punishments, maybe they're just transitions, necessary transitions, the kind that clear space even when you don't want the space, the kind that push you into new chapters even though you're not ready, the kind that shows you what matters and what was only pretending to. Because every ending has taught me something this year. Nearly losing my dad made me realize how much I value presence, how much I need to slow down, how fragile the world can be and how easily life can change without warning. Watching my mum get sick forced me to confront how much I take for granted, how much I assume people will always be here. The financial pressure taught me humility. It reminded me that control is temporary and stability is never guaranteed. Moving the business showed me that courage is not the absence of fear but acting through it, that staying still can be more dangerous than taking a risk. That comfort can be a trap when it stops you from evolving. And maybe the most important thing this year has taught me is that you can't experience one side of life without knowing the other. You can't experience light without understanding darkness. You can't recognize joy without feeling loss. You can't value stability without knowing chaos. You can't grow without being stretched. You can't strengthen without being tested. It's impossible to explain white without black. Impossible to explain warmth without cold. Impossible to explain peace without knowing what it feels like to lose it. I feel like this is why the year has felt so intense, because the contrast has been so extreme. The highs and the lows have been side by side. Moments of pride sitting next to moments of doubt. Wins sitting next to grief and clarity sitting next to confusion. And the pace of it has not left much time to process anything properly. It's been a year of reacting, a year of adapting, a year of doing whatever is needed to be done to simply keep moving forward. But somewhere in that, I started to understand something deeper, that maybe the goal of life is not to get rid of the shadows. Maybe the goal is to learn how to walk with both the light and the dark without letting either one define you entirely. Maybe the real journey is not about escaping discomfort, but learning how to live truthfully within it. Maybe the point is not to aim for a life where nothing goes wrong, but to become someone who can hold themselves when it does. Because what makes life painful is not always the events themselves, it's the meaning we attach to them. The overthinking, the catastrophizing, the assumptions, the old narratives that whisper things like, this always happens to you, or this means you failed, or this is proof that you're not good enough. We take a raw experience and we paint it with every fear that we've ever gathered. And then we wonder why it feels unbearable. And when you strip away the story, when you remove the mental noise layered on top, what you're left with is just an experience. Something that happened, something that has impact, yes, but not identity. Something that requires a response, but not self-blame. Something that might hurt, but does not define you. This is something I had to learn over and over this year. That thinking is often the real source of suffering, not the experience itself. That the mind rushes to assign meaning when all that is actually required is just presence. And that brings me back to the metaphor of this being a 9-year, a year of endings. Endings are uncomfortable because they demand truth, they demand honesty, they demand acceptance. They demand that you let go of versions of yourself that you've outgrown, that you stop pretending something is working when it's not, that you stop trying to revive something that no longer has life in it. Endings create disruption. Endings stretch your emotional capacity, but endings also create clarity. They show you where you've been holding on too tightly. They reveal what is no longer aligned. They free you from patterns you didn't even realize that you were repeating. And it's only after those endings that a beginning becomes possible. Only after letting go can you choose something new. Only after the breakdown can you rebuild and take shape. Only after the shedding can the next version of your life emerge. That is what 1 year symbolizes. Not instant transformation, but the opportunity to choose a new direction without the weight of what came before. A clean state, not perfect, not easy, but open. And maybe that is what this whole year has been preparing me for, preparing many of us for, a season of intentional beginnings. But first we had to walk through the endings. First we had to shed the old skin, and first we had to stop pretending everything was fine. First, we had to lose what was not meant to follow us forward. And when I think about everything that has unfolded, I keep coming back to this idea that life is not trying to punish us. It's trying to prepare us. It's trying to shape us into someone who can stand in the next chapter without collapsing under its weight. It's trying to remove what can't come with us so that when the next season arrives, we're not held back by the things that we never had the courage to release on our own. You can't step into a new life while clinging tightly to the old one. Something has to be surrendered. Something has to be outgrown. And that is the part most people avoid because endings feel like failures. Changing direction feels like admitting defeat. Letting go feels like choosing wrong. But it's none of those things. Endings are not proof that you've lost. Endings are proof that you're evolving. Endings are evidence that you are listening to the deeper part of yourself that knows when something has run its course. But that doesn't make the experience any less uncomfortable. Even when you know the ending is right, even when it's necessary, even when it's the only logical option left on the table, it can still feel like grief. It can still feel like fear. It can still feel like your life is falling apart. And maybe that is because in a way it is. The version of you who existed before can't survive what comes next. Something has to fall apart so something else can be built. It's supposed to feel disorientating. It's supposed to feel heavy. Transformation always does. I think one of the biggest traps we fall into is believing we should be strong enough to breeze through these moments, as if clarity removes difficulty, as if understanding the lesson means that we should stop feeling the weight of it all, as if self-aware means we should be able to bypass the emotions entirely. But the truth is, awareness does not eliminate discomfort. It gives you a better relationship with it. It helps you understand it without collapsing into it, and it helps you move forward through it without losing yourself. And this year taught me that over and over and over. I felt overwhelmed more times than I can count. I felt exhausted. I felt stretched beyond what I thought I could handle. I felt like I was trying to juggle too many lives at once, but every one of those moments shaped something in me. Every one of those moments forced me to strengthen parts of myself that had been neglected. Patience, accepted, flexibility, presence, trust, and without those traits, the next season of my life simply wouldn't work. It made me realize how often we resist the lessons because the lessons require discomfort. We pray for strength, but we reject the situations that build it. We want courage, but we avoid every opportunity to practice it. We want resilience, but want it delivered softly. We want clarity, but become frustrated when life removes the things that will cloud in our vision. We want transformation, but we don't want anything to change. And it doesn't work like that. Growth is not gentle, it's not tidy, and it's not polite. It's not convenient. Growth disrupts, growth confronts, growth demands, and growth breaks what is weak so something stronger can take its place. And if I look back honestly, the hardest parts of this year are the parts that grew me the most. They gave me perspective that comfort never could. They gave me insight I would never have found if life had just stayed easy. They forced me to step into decisions that I'd avoided for years. They made me recognize patterns that I'd overgrown, and they built a version of me that is able to walk into the next year with far more clarity than I would have ever had otherwise. But the most important part of all this, the part I want to share with you, is the reminder that one side of your life gives meaning to the other. You can't feel grounded if you've never felt lost, and you can't feel calm if you've never been overwhelmed. You can't feel grateful if you've never been deprived, and you can't understand alignment if you've never experienced misalignment. Everything has its counterpart. Everything exists because its opposite exists, and one side shapes the other. And when you understand that, it becomes easier to stop fighting the difficult moments, easier to stop assuming they mean something is wrong with you, easier to stop catastrophizing, easier to stop getting lost in the stories your mind creates when you're tired and you're stretched. Because what you're experiencing might simply be necessary contrast that will make sense of everything later. What if nothing is going wrong? What if you're simply in the part of a cycle that clears the old before the new can arrive? What if the confusion that you're feeling is the hallway between the two chapters? What if the discomfort is the sign that you're not stuck but transitioning? What if the exhaustion is proof that you are carrying things you were never meant to carry into the next phase? What if this is not the ending of your story? What if this is the part where you stop pretending and start listening? And that brings me back to the idea of the 1 year, a beginning year, a year where you choose the direction rather than wait for it to be chosen for you. A year where you step forward with clarity rather than with the old promises weighing you down. A year where you let yourself move with the momentum that has been trying to build all along. A year where things click because you finally have the space for them. But you can't walk into a beginning with the mindset of someone still living in an ending. You can't step into a new chapter while repeating the same old narratives. You can't move forward while clinging to the meaning your mind attached to the pain. You have to be willing to let it be what it was without turning it into something bigger. You have to release the shame, release the assumptions, release the overthinking that twists a challenge into a complete identity. You don't need to label every difficult moment as a failure. You don't need to carry every emotion as proof something is wrong with you. You don't need to treat every obstacle as a sign that you're off course. Sometimes obstacles are the course. Sometimes the struggle is the bridge. Sometimes the contrast is clarity. Sometimes the discomfort is the teacher that delivers exactly what you asked for in the way that you didn't expect. And that is what I hope you take from this, that nothing is wasted, not one moment of this year, not one hardship, not one setback, not one confusing turn, not one thing that fell apart. Every part of it had a purpose, even if you can't see it yet, even if you're still in the thick of it, even if you're exhausted from carrying it. The meaning often arrives later when the new chapter reveals why the old one had to end the way that it did. Because maybe the goal isn't to escape the dark. Maybe the goal is to learn how to dance with both the light and the shadow. To be able to stand in the middle of both and understand that neither defines you. They only shape you. They only mirror each other, and they only give you context to the experience. And when you stop fighting that, you free yourself. You stop looking for a perfect life and you start building a real one. You stop waiting for everything to fall into place and start stepping forward anyway. You stop believing that endings are failures and start recognizing them as invitations. And that is the irony of this year. The parts that felt like they were breaking me were the parts that were actually building me. The parts I resisted were the parts that I needed most. The parts I feared were the parts that freed me. And now as I look forward into the new year, I can feel it, that subtle shift, that sense of relief, that space opening, the clarity forming, that feeling that something new is not only coming, but is now possible because of everything that happened before it. And I guess that's the message I wanted to leave you with, that the darkest parts of your year do not mean that you're failing. They mean that you're shedding. They mean that you're transitioning. They mean that you're being prepared for a chapter that your old life was too small to hold. Don't rush the ending. Don't judge the discomfort. Don't believe the story your tired mind creates about what it means. Let the ending be the ending. Let the new chapter open in its own time. Everything has two sides. Everything has opposites. And the meaning of one will always come from the other. You're not meant to choose between them. You're meant to live and learn in both. The next year might just be the beginning that shows you why this year had to be exactly what it was. If you like this video, feel free to give it a like and a subscribe. It helps me, it helps the channel, and it helps people like us find the conversations that actually matter. And as always, remember that you matter too. Don't forget that.